100% behind the movie Standing Silent. He had seen it. And you know, one of the things he referred to in his letter was the Shofar Coalition. Now there was a place to come. And before that, before we started investigating this in the Jewish community, the Shofar Coalition was much smaller, but once it gained the credibility of, I think, the Associated and people like Elaine and Joan and others, Marcy, it just clicked into gear. So I feel really good about that. So I don't know if you remember Valerie Singerman, but a letter came out in April of like 2007, right before Pesach, signed by 23 rabbis in the community condemning sexual molestation, and but nothing ever happened after that. Many of those same rabbis still support the whole issue of go to your rabbi first, don't call 911, don't tell a clinician, that kind of thing. So unfortunately, you know, when we were going to write the first Ephraim Shapiro story, my rabbi called me into his office with my wife, Lisa, and with my therapist, Lisa, my two Lisas, and basically said that you can't run this story. And you know, I'm looking back at my wife, I said something to him like, the way you guys have been doing it all these years, I think is broken. And so I'm going to do it this way. And I know it's going to embarrass some people, but you know, I just have to try something, trust, and that's kind of what happened. So I don't, no, the Haredi community hasn't locally been very forthcoming about this.
My personal experience in speaking to people about sexual abuse in the community led me to be threatened by rabbis through a relative of mine to stop. I was like, or what? He was like, or I can't say what. It's like that bad, like you need to stop. I was like, who told you this? He's like, I can't tell you that either, but it was a bunch of local from rabbis from this community who feel like you need to stop talking about what you're talking about. So you know, that threat came across to me very concrete, and it scared me for a while. Well, I should say it still scares me today, but I'm much more vocal about it now. This is a war of secrets and lies and shame, and the only way to stop this is to shed the light on it and to talk about it, to get the conversation going. And I used to fight really hard to try to get the Frum community to see what they were doing and how they were protecting and sheltering, and try to get through to this rabbi or that rabbi. And then after the first time that I saw the very first edit of this movie, you couldn't see me at all. I was like blocked out, my face was covered, my voice was scrambled. And after I watched the first edit of the movie, I was like, this has too much potential, and I'm not wrong. I need to stand up and show my face. And what's starting to happen, and it's starting to happen all across this country and in Israel, is that the communities are saying to their rabbis, you need to wake up, you need to get educated, because we are going to get the help that we need with or without you. And you're starting to see that shift. There's tremendous backlash that's coming onto Agudas Israel of America, you know, who said that you should not report to the police first, you have to go to a rabbi first. People have been blasting them that they came out with, you know, a twisted sort of like restatement, which they got blasted for again. Like, people we're fed up. Had enough. Our kids are hurting. You know, there's too much danger around. You know, this little boy who just got butchered, you know, the neighbor, you know, what her son was almost brought in by Lady Aaron a few days earlier. You know, and she couldn't go to anybody because her community said, no, you have to come to a rabbi first. Like, this is, it's enough. Like, we have to talk about this. We have to have these conversations.
In the film, the perpetrators are mostly, the vast majority are Orthodox. Is it more prevalent in the Orthodox community, or just more hidden, more protected?
Larry asked if it's more prevalent in the Orthodox community or does it happen elsewhere?
No, that's not true. In studies that we all over the country, not just in Baltimore, it is across the board in the community, all spectrum of the Jewish community. It is not more prevalent in the Orthodox community. What is different, and the reason we hear about it more, is when survivors come forward for help, non-Orthodox Jews will occasionally go to secular-based organization and services for help, whereas observant Orthodox individuals are more likely to come forward only if they can come to a Jewish-based organization like Kano, like Shofar. So we hear about it more. The only other difference is that the relationship between non-Orthodox individuals and their rabbis is very different, usually, than the relationship between an Orthodox Jew and his or her rabbi, who will go to their rabbi for so many issues. So the going to their rabbi for, what do I do? Should I tell anybody? What should I do? Is more likely to happen in an Orthodox community than in the non-Orthodox. But that does not mean that the abuse is more prevalent. It is not more prevalent. It is across the board, and we know that from studies done all over the country. It really is.
Can I add something?
Sure.
My wife and I were just in San Francisco. The San Francisco Jewish Film Festival screened the movie twice. And so we were in two theaters with a couple hundred people in each theater. And then afterwards you have the Q&A, but then after the Q&A you really have the Q&A. And I will